Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are looking at the MLB picks for Friday. Happy Friday, start of the weekend. Just make it a good one. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Haven't had too many MLB videos out, but I wanted to make one today, just with only being one NBA game. See if I make a video for that one as well. But let's go ahead and get started. Looking at the Fantasy Labs, the projected lineups, and the pitching matchups here. First game up, we have Rich Hill against Kyle Bradish. It's in Baltimore. We know Camden Yards, one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all of MLB. Looking at this Red Sox team, some of the guys that look appealing to me is definitely Alex Verdugo. Having a great season so far, former Dodger, and batting right in the heart of this lineup. He's kind of making up for the fact that they're dealing with some injuries and like some poor play from some of these other guys. Like Martinez hasn't hit as well as he did last year. Story's gotten off to a very cold start. So really, I probably like Verdugo, and he's at a really good price tag at 37. Next, maybe like Jackie Bradley at only 22 if you needed a cheap one. We have some cheap pitchers that I like pitchers in the 8K range that look appealing today. Second game up, we have Houston against the Blue Jays. Looking at this team, McCormick against the lefties, always a good one-off play, especially at that price tag. I like Bregman against lefties. Those would be the two that I really like. And then bottom of the order would be like Diaz at 35 at his price tag. Looking over at the Blue Jay side, not too interested here. I think some other teams to stack. None of the price tags really jump out. The catcher has been hitting well, but he's up to $4,100 now. Always Vlad, one-off play. You can always stack the top three or plug in like Gurriel here at 37. But they're not one of my teams I'm really focused on today. Next up, the Twins and the Rays. Two decent pitchers today. Like Bundy's pitched pretty well so far for the Twins. Can't say anything bad about him. We know that he does give up some home runs, but this isn't a great ballpark to really worry about that. So if they were in a different ballpark that was very good for home runs, I could look to some of these Rays bats, but it's just not really the case in Tropicana Field. That's why we have some too low totals today. And then on the Twin side, with 3.6 total, I'm not really looking at anybody here. You can always go Buxton as a one-off, but he's up to 61, so we're not getting any sort of savings on that price tag. Next up, we have the Phillies against the Mets. Phillies coming off of a sweep at home, and I'm going into New York to square off against the Mets here. Two good pitchers, Nola against McGill. Not looking at any of the bats today. You can make a case for both pitchers. I like Nola just based on his price tag. Another good pitching matchup here between Syndergaard and Lucas Giolito. Giolito was on the DL for a little bit, or IL, whatever it's the IL now. But Giolito's still pitched really well. The two starts that he has made, he got up to like 70-something pitches, I believe. In his most recent start, he had 9 strikeouts in just 4 innings. So he pitched 76, so he probably can get up to 80. He only pitched 4 innings each of the first 2 starts because he was on the IL for a bit. But we know he gives you a lot of talent and upside. It's just that this Angels team is not very strikeout heavy. Trout doesn't strike out much. Ohtani does, but he's also very scary. He's not one guy that you want to be looking to strike out because he can easily just homer off you twice. And Ward has been on another level. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball so far this season, especially with the home runs. Not lower looking at Giolito at that price tag. I'd probably rather get like Syndergaard at 8K just with some of the strikeouts in this lineup, but I like some other pitchers better. Next up, we have the Braves against the Rangers. Good to see the return of Ronald Acuna. I don't know why he's not in the projected lineup today. I mean, I assume he would be. Played yesterday. No, I don't think they'll take it. Oh, actually, he's not in the lineup already. So, all right. So, good thing we already know that. So that is correct by Fantasy Labs. No, Ronald Acuna makes the stack look a little bit worse. The pricing on some of these guys at the bottom here looks good, like 2K for the outfielders, with 225 for Duvall would be appealing. Swanson has gotten off to a slow start, but recently he's been hitting the ball really well, coming off of a home run yesterday. We have the Yankees against the Royals. Looks like it might be a little bit rainy here. We'll see if the pitching is somewhat okay to target. If it is, you can go to Cortez. He's up to 10K. I think he's the most expensive pitcher on the slate. Unlike some other guys in the 8K range, especially with the wind blowing out, 20 miles per hour is not one that you feel great about with the rain mixed in there as well. Got wind blowing in here in Milwaukee. Looking at against Kyle Hendricks, looking at some of the lefties here, like Tellez, Yelich, Colton Wong would be the most appealing plays. On the Cubs side, not really looking to target anybody. 3.5 total. Some other teams I'm kind of focused on. Next up, Bumgarner going up against this Cardinals team and against Wainwright. Wainwright, 2 veteran pitchers, been around for feels like 50 years, but been around for probably close to 15, 20 years. We have On the Cardinals side, the righties look really good against Madison Bumgarner. We know Arenado mashes lefties. Goldschmidt doesn't have a home run yet this season, but he's hitting like over 400 in his last handful of games. So those would be the two that I really like. And then you can mix in like Tyler O'Neill. He's also very good with the hitting, and the price tag on him isn't too bad. And then you can also go like Tommy Edman, who's been always making contact and gives you some stolen base upside. And we got a Coors game, and it's very rare that we have a Coors game where the pricing is this low. On the Cincinnati side, everybody is below $3,000 except for Jonathan India. So the Reds are going to be very popular today. They are 3-16, but really, I've been betting against them. But for fantasy, you play these guys in Coors with this total and these price tags. Looking at least to get to like Jonathan India, 35. He looks appealing. Naquin, again, Sensatella lefty righty matchup there. Can go down to like Kyle Farmer. Potentially had 4 doubles the other day. So looking at least to get to a couple of Reds, and I'm looking to get to some Rockies as well. Charlie Blackmon has 4 home runs in his last 10 games after he got off to a cold start. Looks like he's really turned it around. He would be my favorite, and then CJ Cron has been mashing the ball in Coors. Then we have the Dodgers. Look like an appealing stack here against a lefty. Mookie Betts, Turners, both of the Turners look appealing. Will Smith. And then we have 2 good options to target pitching-wise. Frankie Montas against Aaron Savali. The A's are actually having a winning record. They're 10-9 this year after they traded away like everybody in the offseason. It's crazy. Even with that limited payroll, they continue to win games, at least to start. Don't think it'll last too long. And then last game, another pitcher you can target is Alex Wood at home against this pretty weak Washington team besides for Soto. Nelson Cruz and maybe Josh Bell, but the bottom of the order, lots of strikeouts there. Cruz has really starting to show his age, I believe. He's struggling to hit the ball. And then you can look to some of these guys on the Giants side, like Slater potentially at 28. It's based on the price tag. Flores, Brandon Belt, they always have just like hitters that don't look too appealing to target, but they always end up scoring some runs, except for the other day. But in general, 4.6 total against Sanchez. We know he gets into trouble against lefty, so those would be Belt, Crawford would be the ones that I target the most. So that's a quick rundown of all the games. Let's go ahead and go back to DraftKings. We can take a look at the pricing a little bit more by position. Pitching options today, we got Cortez at 10K. He's fine, but the rain and then maybe the wind is a little bit concerning. You got a bunch of other guys that we can look to. I like Giolito at his price tag. You can go to McGill against the Phillies if you wanted to. But Giolito, even though they're not a strikeout-heavy team, the Angels are. You can still target him at 95. The pitching should go up. His pitch count should go up to probably 80-something pitches today at least. Well, first guy I'm putting in here is going to be Alex Wood, $8,700, basically a 3-run projected total for the Washington Nationals today. And we've seen Wood have success at home. Going back, he's only had 1 start at home this year. Put up 13.6 fantasy points against a good Padres team. But we've seen him go about 86, 87 pitches, 2 out of his 3 starts. And they are likely to get the win, so another good chance he can add on those extra DK points. And then the second pitcher that I like, you can make a case for Aaron Nola here. Make a case for Dylan Bundy if you wanted to. He's a little bit more risky. But we have, actually, they don't even have him as the pitcher here. But it looks like it will be Frankie Montas. That's what MLB.com has. That's what Fantasy Labs has. So unless something changed, putting in Montas, if Montas doesn't happen to start today, then I would probably look to maybe going to like Syndergaard at 8,000 or somebody that's cheap in similar price range that still gives you some upside. But I would look to target Montas in the Coliseum against Cleveland Indians team where you're basically just worried about a couple of hitters in this lineup. Obviously, Jose Ramirez would be one, and maybe Miles Straw, the way that he's been swinging the bat, and Miller. But lots of strikeouts here, especially the bottom. Hedges strikes out a ton for a catcher. Reyes strikes out a lot. Don't know who this guy is. This outfielder is new, but I'm sure he probably hasn't done anything great yet. So Montas and Wood will be the 2 pitchers that I look to target. Looking at first base here, you can go up to Ohtani if you're playing GPPs, but he's not on my radar. I'd rather get to the hitters that I'm looking to target in the stacks. So CJ Cron, he's been mashing the ball this year, batting .280 with 7 bombs already. In Coors, those numbers are skyrocketed up to .350 in the 10 games that he has played, and 5 of his 7 home runs have come in Coors. So going up against the Reds pitching staff, which has given up a lot of runs, and they have one of the highest totals on the slate, Got to start with CJ Cron here at my first baseman. Other guy that I have interest would be Paul Goldschmidt, 47. And then for the value at the position, if you needed anyone, you can maybe look to like Gurriel from the Astros potentially. But really, first base, typically a position where you can pay up, especially if you're going with the 8K pitchers. Over at second base, I like Tommy Edman, second baseman, targeting against Bumgarner. Gives you some speed on the base paths, doesn't strike out too much, gives you some power. Batting leadoff, potentially getting 5 at-bats. A lot to like with this kid. Other options for us would be going down a little bit, maybe Story if you're looking to target the Boston Red Sox bats today, but their offense has been cold. Only guy I kind of have some interest in is Verdugo, just based on the lefty-righty matchup and his price tag. But for me, second baseman, we can go cheap here. With Jonathan India, $3,500, get to another piece in that chorus game. He's going to be batting leadoff for them. He's just returned after missing some time. He hasn't gotten off to a great start yet, but it's been limited at bats for him compared to everybody else. Striking out about 25% of the time. Doesn't have a home run yet. But based off of his rookie season last year, where he was just awesome, doing everything for the team, they have the worst record in baseball by far this season to start 3-16, 3-16. Might go down to 3-17 after today. But I still like India to target for fantasy. The price tag is really cheap for a guy hitting in course at that position, and for a guy that does have as much upside as Jonathan India does if he played MLB DFS last season. Over at third base, Arenado is going to be one of my favorites to target at this position. Looking at the course plays, if you wanted to stick with the stack here, you have McMahon as like the only guy that from the Rockies would be viable at the position, and then from the red side, I don't know if any of these guys will be in the lineup. Maybe Colin Moran, but he might be batting like 8th, so I might just pay up for Arenado here. He's always good against lefties. He's been hitting the ball really well this season, and at home, on the road, both great. At home, he's batting almost 500, which is crazy. 448 in 29 at-bats with 3 bombs. It doesn't strike out very much as well, especially against Bumgarner, who doesn't strike very many guys out anymore, and he's just relying on contact and gives up a lot of fly balls. And then last but not least, in the outfield, got a lot of options here. Looking to pay up for anybody. Trout's been on another level, but Giolito's always a tough one to target against. Going down a bit here, we have the Yankees righties against Bubic. So, Stanton is always good against lefties. Judge has been great so far. He's also good against lefties as well. But I'm going to go with Charlie Blackmon here, $4,700. Get to another piece of the Rockies. Blackmon and Cron are my 2 favorites, given the way that Blackman's been swinging the bat recently. He was off to a terrible start, and now he's been really hitting the ball well. He had a multi-home run game against the Phillies, and in course, he typically has always hit the ball well. He hasn't done it yet so far this season, but those numbers should definitely increase just based on his career sample, and he's been swinging a good bat right now. So that's what I got for the DraftKings side. Let's go ahead and take a look at FanDuel. And then if you wanted to go to like any other the value pieces, you have the Reds outfielders would be great plays. I like Naquin, 29, just batting probably second in this lineup. But we can touch more on that. On FanDuel, we look at the pricing. All right, over on FanDuel, pitching-wise, Montas 10-2 still going to be one of my favorites to target. They have, I believe, the lowest total on the slate, that Cleveland Indians. Great ballpark to pitch in. Even if Montas gives us some fly balls, good chance that the park just kind of eats them up. And then another guy would be Alex Wood, 95. Maybe you can go down to like McGill at his price tag, but don't have much interest in anybody else. Going over to catcher/first baseman. CJ Cron is $4,100. He's super expensive, but I still think if you're looking to stack up cores, you got to have him in there. Other options could potentially be going down a little bit here to some of these other secondary stacks like the Dodgers, Muncy. Even though it's lefty-lefty, he still has shown ability to hit home runs off of lefties going back to last year, the year before that. I don't know if he's had one against lefties this year, but he's been pretty good for them, continuing to just hit for a very high slugging percentage. Not too many other good options at the bottom that I'm really looking at that stick out to me too much. So I think I'll probably end up paying for CJ Cron once again. Over at second base, Ozzie Albies is 42. We can probably get to a cheap guy here if we needed to. Or wanted to. I like Tommy Edman, $3,400, but I'm going back to Jonathan India at $3,400. Looking to get to a couple of pieces from Coors on from the same type of deal that I had on DraftKings with Cron and India to get us started. Value at the position, you have Simeon at only 3K. He's been cold to start, but he's coming around a little bit as of late. You have Nick Senzel has been also cold, but cores can solve a lot of things, and it can make poor hitters turn into great hitters. Moving on to third base, Arenado's 4K. I still like him, but we might have to go to a cheaper guy just because we plugged in Crone here. We do have one good cheap option that I like that's going up against a lefty and has hit lefties well, and that is Justin Turner. At only $2,700, he is always good against lefties or at home. Hasn't had a home run yet this year, but against lefties, he does have a lot higher slugging percentage, a lot higher ISO and power in general. So that price tag is one of the cheapest Dodgers hitters, batting like middle of the order. Shortstop, Wander Franco's on another level this year. Trey Turner looks good. He's expensive at 30 now. We might need to go a little bit cheaper, depending on how much we want to pay up for our outfielders. But I don't mind getting to like maybe Carlos Correa at 3K. Going down a little bit further, you have Corey Seager down to just $2,700. I mean, he's super talented hitter. That price tag is ridiculous. You know, Anderson is good, but he shouldn't be cheaper than like Farmer and Iglesias and Swanson and Pena. Moving on to the outfield. Going all the way up, you have Trout and Buxton, two guys that are great. The matchups aren't awesome for either one. So looking to pass on paying all the way up for those guys. You have Grichuk at 39, probably like Blackman more at 4K. They priced up the Rockies more on FanDuel. And then going further down here, you know, Taylor Ward averaging like 18 fantasy points. Insane the way that he's been swinging the bat. Going below 3K, I mean, you have Stanton right here at $3,100. You normally don't get Stanton at this sort of price tag against a lefty, at least. So against Chris Bubic. So got to go with Stanton here. Other options would be like Drury if he's in the lineup at 29, but I expect Naquin to be in there at second base or in the outfield at batting second. Further down here, you have maybe like Miles Straw. Actually, not Miles Straw. He has good speed and stuff, but I'm not going to target him against Frankie Montas. Renfroe potentially. He's been up and down, kind of cold, but he does give you a lot of home run power. Adam Duvall, 27. Arozarena is cheap, but he's been struggling so far. And it's kind of it. We'll see. You can always go down here furthermore with like McCormick batting leadoff. There's always good cheap hitters here, just depending on where they're batting in the batting order. But that's about it for the video. Best of luck tonight, and I will see you all next time.